When'd you shoot him?
What?
At what point did you shoot the clerk?
I shot the clerk.
Yes, when did you shoot him?
I shot the clerk.
Hey, Dean, we need you out here.
I'm in the middle of a damn confession here.
Whoa! Wait a minute!
I find it interesting to note just how cyclical the debate around Lucy Letby is. It's like a carousel of nonsense, desperation. Shit, let's try something else. Let's try that. Chuck that at them. Oh, God, they've got an answer. Jesus, they've debunked it. Christ, get something else. Get that one now. Much like her first trial was with the 22 counts of murder and attempted murder. And I've long thought if you tried those individually, they would never have been approved by the CPS, let alone got to court and reached convictions. Never. People can stand back and admire how they used 1,000 cards to make this. They're all completely interdependent, and it only takes a slight draft to knock it all down. And that to me has always seemed pretty suspicious. But I was told this week that, yes, I mean, you couldn't have tried them alone because it was a pattern of behaviour, which surely means we have now circled back round to the statistical argument. I mean, surely it is. What am I missing here? And surely that would mean that it's very important to have that background information, which Goss ruled inadmissible almost always. But again, people will say, no, you've got it wrong. And then they'll point to something else. And then when you critique that, that will also be only just a very minor part of it. And it was a really, small point in the grand scale of things. And it was the whole, it was the whole story, the whole deal. That's what was important. But, it's also not very important that we talk about what was going on at the hospital. And, I mean, you would have to start being pretty brutal with the edit, wouldn't you, when you're talking about so many charges of such serious nature. Focusing on over a year where somebody had been working very long hours, it just seems implausible to me that any of this would stand on its own 2 feet. And I think they know that. And I think that's why we have this carousel of just trash. And it's why the police have pulled some fast ones again. It's why they did Baby K just to solidify the corrected swipe data issue. And, also the media gag was very handy. I have a load to say on the events of the last week, but I'm not going to manage to say it today. So I just thought I'd focus quickly on this and leave you in the far more capable hands, particularly of Lucy Letby Analysis, who's done some phenomenal stuff this week. And not only articulated much of what I would want to say, has come up with a load of extremely interesting points. So check him out if you haven't already. Anyway, this confession note nonsense. I cannot believe anyone, hand on heart, believes that they were genuine confessions. I can't believe it. But it really is worrying just how stupid so many people are. I'm increasingly coming to that view, which isn't very fluffy and nice of me. And I am a very fluffy and nice person generally. But God, it just gets intractable, doesn't it? Oh, there's our favourite social media clown, Christopher Snowden, by default categorising himself as a reasonable person, which is presumptuous as hell. I mean, he accuses people like John Sweeney or Hitchens even of being grifters and not showing sufficient respect to the families, while he came into this really late just to be a prick. That's all he's done. While he behaves extremely insensitively to people who are even talking about their own child loss at times. Or just being incredibly crude and smarmy and snarky. If he were to be given a prequel, he would be one of those smarmy, snarky, nasty yuppies with a beautiful wife and gorgeous house and a good reputation, etc. And then he went off to Southeast Asia and caught antibiotic-resistant gonorrhea. And since then, he has never forgiven his wife for leaving him. his other girlfriends for leaving him, his boss for laughing at him, his GP for being a woman and having to look at his junk when it was in such a state. And since then he has just had a quiet sideline where he tries to take on lawyers who are up for prosecuting Filipino sex workers from the late 80s, early 90s. And yeah, then his other job is just like grifting really hard on a story he ignored at first and was only educated by a few episodes of the Daily Mail podcast, which, as we know, was made by the Media Factory and Caroline Cheetham, taking money from Chester Police after giving them media training, but carefully, like a pro. She used her husband's name for that. And the overwhelming bias of that podcast and the fact that the journalists involved, along with Judith Moritz, were party to private press conferences. But like the old yuppie he is, he will fall back on the laissez-faire explanation and justification. Anyway, it would appear that I haven't dealt with the note at all. But I'm going to leave you with Guy Rowland in a moment, who does it very well. And this is just a very short clip of his video. Here we are. Here is Lucy Letby communicating to Catherine de Beja how terrible she feels that these babies have died. And there are countless other examples if you look through the Thirlwell Inquiry site. If you're not an actual psychopath, you may understand that there is such a thing as irrational guilt. And that especially if you were in a position to care for somebody who has passed away, that may hit you really hard. But anyway, here's Guy. Adios.
The handwriting of Lucy Letby. On a post-it note found in her home, she writes, "I am evil. I did this."
The jury weren't told that the hospital's head of occupational health had instigated a therapy program for her. Writing down feelings is a common technique. According to Richard Curran, the chair of the Forensic Psychotherapy Society, this would have included how she was being made to feel by others. The NHS's Cognitive Behavioural Therapy website describes how to write a thought record. This includes writing down unhelpful thoughts, such as,
"I never get anything right. I'm useless and cannot be trusted with simple tasks."
or with Lucy's accusations.
"I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them."
Lucy wrote down many other contradictory thoughts. The notes the police recovered were no confession. They were part of a hospital-instigated therapy program.